regret, and we do regret it. We're sorry that we disobeyed Krishna, and we left Krishna in the spiritual world, and we shouldn't forget that. All the devotees are becoming great pure devotees, but we shouldn't forget and should always regret why we're here in the first place. As I go on, if anybody wants to contribute, you're welcome. This is verse number 28. Vridha anato pitaro nanya bandhu tapasvino aho maya dhuna chakva akrita gena nichavat. My father and mother were old and had no other son or friend to look after them. Because I did not take care of them, they lived with great difficulty. Alas, like an abominable lower-class man, I ungratefully left them in that condition. Oh, that's purport. According to Vedic civilization, everyone has the responsibility for taking care of brahmanas, old men, women, children, and cows. This is the duty of everyone, especially an upper-class person. Because of his association with a prostitute, Ajamil abandoned all his duties. Regretting this, Ajamil now considered himself quite fallen. And that's a common thing in the United States. I don't think it's much less common here that when mother and father become old and can't live alone, generally the children, grown-up children, even if they have enough room in their house and enough money, generally they don't take the parents to live with them. They put them in a nursing home. And a nursing home is not a nice place. It's okay, it may be very comfortable. I know I used to. Yeah. It can be a nice nursing home, but it's not a nice place. Anyway, I was just with husband and wife and two daughters up in Mayapur. They're Indians from South Africa, and I think it's the wife's mother who looks pretty old now. I don't know how old, but looks pretty old. And she can't take care of herself anymore. So she lives with them, and she'll live with them till she leaves her body. And that's the proper way. After all, our parents gave us everything. Not only gave us our body, but took care of us for so many years growing up. And if we neglect them in their old age, it's not a very grateful, it's not a responsible or kind or loving position at all. And so that's what Jamil is regretting in this verse, is looking back at his life, his sinful life, and he's kicking himself. He's like, look what I did with my life. I was so bad. And now he's looking back with great regret and feeling very bad. It's good to feel bad when you do something wrong. As devotees, we feel bad if we offend another devotee in the temple, or if we, anything that we do that's not a good Krishna conscious standard, we feel regretful. We feel very sorry. Krishna lets us know immediately. He said, "Oh, you spoke like that to that other devotee, or you behaved like that. Oh, that was not right. That was very bad. You should go apologize to that person and ask forgiveness for your offense. And so that's a very strong tradition and practice for among devotees that we try very hard not to offend anyone. And if we do offend somebody, we feel bad about it. In the animalistic so-called civilization that I come from, if somebody does something that's offensive to or in anger to someone else, they don't care. They just, yeah, I did it. So what? Big deal. Get over it, buddy. And, but in Vaishnava culture, we don't uh, we don't think like that. We don't act like that. There's one famous saying attributed to Mohandas Gandhi. And somebody asked him, what do you think of Western culture?" Does anybody know what he said? But, yeah, he said, he made it funny. He said, "I think it would be a good idea." It's like, it's like, no, they don't. There is no culture. It'd be a good idea if they had some. That was a pretty clever. Of course, he's very intelligent. Pretty clever retort. Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea if they had a culture. And I tell you, it's like that. It's not an exagger. It's not an exaggeration, really at all. It's not like there's no nice people, or there's no consideration, or there's no manners at all. There is. There's a lot of people who behave very decently towards each other and try to treat other people with kindness and respect. But overall, by and large, in general, the so-called culture there is not very elevated at all. Okay, so I'll go on. Uh, yeah. Soham vyaktam patishami narake brisha darune dharma gna kamino yatra vindanti yama yatanaha. It is now clear that as a consequence of such activities, a sinful person like me must be thrown into hellish conditions meant for those who have broken religious principles and must there suffer extreme miseries. I'll go to text 30. Was this a dream I saw, or was it reality? I saw fearsome men with ropes in their hands coming to arrest me. But we don't, we should be afraid, but, okay. And the next verse is, Atapi me durbagasya vibhudatama darshane avitavyam mangalena enatma me prasiddhati. I am certainly most abominable and unfortunate to have merged in an ocean of sinful activities, but nevertheless, because of my previous spiritual activities, I could see those four exalted personalities who came to rescue me. Now I feel exceedingly happy because of their visit. Prabhupada's purport. As stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 22.54, Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastri Koi, Lava Mantra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Association with devotees is recommended by all the Shastras because by even a moment of such association, one can receive the seed for all perfection. In the beginning of his life, Ajamil was certainly very pure, and he associated with devotees and brahmanas. Because of that pious activity, even though he was fallen, he was inspired to name his son Narayana. Certainly, this was due to good counsel given from within by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 15.15, Sarvasya chaham hridhi sanivishto mataksmitir jnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. The Lord who is situated in everyone's heart is so kind that if one has ever rendered service to him, the Lord never forgets him. Thus, the Lord from within gave Ajamil the opportunity to name his youngest son Narayana, so that in affection he would constantly call Narayan, Narayana, and thus be saved from the most fearful and dangerous condition at the time of his death, which is the mercy of Krishna. Guru Krishna Prasadi Bhai Bhakti Lata Bij. By the mercy of the Guru and Krishna, one receives the seed of bhakti. This association saves a devotee from the greatest fear. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we therefore change a devotee's name to a form that reminds him of Vishnu. If at the time of death the devotee can remember his own name, such as Krishna Das or Govinda Das, he can be saved from the greatest danger. Therefore, the change of names at the time of initiation is essential. The Krishna consciousness movement is so meticulous that it gives one a good opportunity to remember Krishna somehow or other. So there's some very crucial points in Krishna conscious philosophy. And the Ajamil had a good background of devotional service when he was young, but he had some trouble, a good deal of trouble throughout his life, living with that woman and having so many children and acting so sinfully, behaving very sinfully almost all of his adult life but he had the good fortune. Prabhupada says that Krishna gave him the intelligence within his heart to name his youngest son, who is very attached to Narayan. So he would constantly be remembering the name of Krishna throughout his life. And of course, at the end of his life, he called out his son's name and just a desperation or a more or less pure way of chanting Hare Krishna. And he called out Narayana at the end of his life in helplessness because of attachment for his son. But Krishna took it as that he was calling him. So he sent the Vishnu Dutas to counteract, to rule over and counteract the influence of the Yamadutas. ordinarily nobody can escape the punishment of Yamadutas, but if the Vishnu Dutas come, then they automatically take the superior position. And the Yamadutas know that, and so they had to surrender to the Vishnu Dutas. But yeah, so and the purport begins with Sadhu Sangha. Association with devotees is recommended by all the Shastras, because by even a moment of such pure association, one can receive the seed for all perfection. That's why I always say there's no such thing as a little bit of Krishna preaching, a little bit of Krishna consciousness, a little bit of devotional service. Even the most seemingly insignificant thing of walking past a Sankirtan party and even deriding I knew one devotee, his name was Gadadhar Pandit. He lived in the Boston Temple in 1970, in the mid 70s and late 70s. Really good devotee. But in the 1973, he was a student at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. It's a pretty highly respected school. He was a student there, and he used to see the devotees at a temple in D.C., and he used to see them out on Harinam when he'd go downtown doing whatever he was doing. And he would always cross the road to get away from them. And he told me that one time he threw a rock across the street at the devotees. That's a pretty serious thing when you throw a rock at somebody. It's a heavy thing. Even in the United States, it's not something that's generally done. And he threw a rock at the devotees, but he said, but by the end of the summer, he was living in the temple. So even just a little bit of contact with the devotees, of course, I don't recommend that as a way to become a devotee, but for him, that's how he became a devotee, somehow or other. Krishna saw some sincerity in him, and Adao Shraddha, that verse begins Adao Shraddha. In the beginning, the first step of Krishna consciousness is a little bit of faith, just a little bit of faith. And Prabhupada describes that little bit of faith as when somebody sees the devotees on Harinam or sees a book, a Bhagavad Gita or something, Bhagavatam, and the person thinks, oh, I wonder what those people are doing. That looks a little interesting. Or I wonder what that book is about. That looks like an interesting book. And Prabhupada says that's an example of Adao Shraddha. In the beginning, there's just a little, it's not even could call faith, but it's counted as a little bit of faith by Krishna. He gives you credit as the credit of just that little bit of curiosity. I wonder what those people are doing there. Why are they acting like that? I know that's how I was in the beginning. I didn't have just a little bit of curiosity. I had a lot of curiosity and wonder at it. But even if you just walk by the Harinam and you think, oh, boy, I wonder what those people are doing there. That's very unusual. And so that's, so there's no such thing as a little bit of Krishna consciousness. That's very important to always remember in the material world as preachers, because we're preaching to all the people who are resisting surrendering to Krishna. And so that's almost everybody. is still in that position of resisting Krishna. So whatever anybody can do, even just that little bit of wonder, a little bit of curiosity, it's a very big thing. It's the most important thing. Like I always say, when I first saw the devotees on Harinam when I was young, 18 years old, it, uh, I look back and ever since I've been a devotee, I look back at that moment and being, it's the most important moment of my life, not only in this life, but for millions of past lives. It's the most important thing that ever happened. Prabhupada says that one can receive the seed for all perfection. The seed is planted in the heart. Just like in COVID times, everybody was afraid of breathing in anything. I remember in Boston, there weren't, there's not as many people in Boston as there are in Calcutta. But in Boston, I remember seeing people cross the road to the other side of the street when somebody was walking down the sidewalk on their side of the road. I guess it was, the whole world everyone was full of fear. And so what are they afraid of? They're afraid of a microscopic virus. You can't see it, but it's so tiny. But that tiny microscopic virus filled the whole world with fear. And because once it gets into your body, then it can grow and expand and take over all the functions of the body, and you can get extremely sick. You can leave your body just from a tiny microscopic little virus. So the seed of devotional service is like that. As Prabhupada has described it like that. Like one analogy is the seed that's planted in the ground and it grows into a big, whatever type of plant it is or tree it is. But another analogy he gives is that when somebody hears the holy name, it's like a virus has entered his body. And this is a virus, the COVID virus or any material virus, it may be effective or it may not. Many people got the COVID virus and didn't get sick at all or hardly sick. Other people just died. So it wasn't always effective, depending on the person. But the virus of the holy name is inevitably effective in every living entity. It cannot not be effective, because nothing can stop Krishna. If Krishna wants to enter your heart, he will enter your heart in the form of the holy name or any kind of association with Krishna consciousness. Maybe one more verse. Next 33 is Anyata Riyamanasya Nasucha Vishali Pate Vaikuntha Nama Grahanam Jiva Bhaktum Iharhati. Were it not for my past devotional service, how could I, a most unclean keeper of a prostitute, have gotten an opportunity to chant the holy name of Vaikuntapati when I was just ready to die? Certainly it could not have been possible. Prabhupada's purport is, the name Vaikuntapati, which means the master of the spiritual world, is not different from the name Vaikuntha. A Jamil, who was now a realized soul, could understand that because of his past spiritual activities in devotional service, he had gotten this opportunity to chant the holy name of Vaikuntapati in his horrible condition at the time of death. So that's our great benediction that where all the devotees here, all the devotees, I always say, all the devotees are great souls. And that's my experience in years in devotional services. All the devotees are such sincere people and so uh, uh, committed to their devotional service to Krishna. All the devotees I've ever known. Each devotee is a very rare soul. And that's even uh, materially understandable. Not really. Krishna says out of many thousands of men, hardly one even endeavors for perfection, a spiritual perfection. And out of many thousands of them, hardly one knows me in truth. So the devotees, we don't know, we're not so advanced that we know Krishna so well yet, but we're in the process, the unmistakable, in, impossible to stop process of becoming pure and knowing Krishna and seeing Krishna and talking to Krishna face to face, like the young Brahmin who was accompanying person, servant of the old Brahmin. Where did they start from? Ramuna in the Chaitanya Charitamrita? Yeah.
They, no, they started from, they went for a Vrindavan Yatra
Yeah.
from Odisha.
Ours.
So because in the same village, he provided the Lord. No?
Yeah.
So that's near Bhubaneswar.
Um,
Baraswar. No, not Baraswar. That the village is called as Sakshi Gopal only now.
so called what?
Sakshi Gopal.
Sakshi Gopal village.
It's a train station called as Sakshi Gopal.
Okay.
The Lord moved from Vrindavan to that point.
Yeah, and when the young Brahmin went back to Vrindavan after he had all the trouble with the old Brahmin's family, and they told him, get out of here. You're crazy. You just gave our father poison and you stole his money, and you're not getting our sister, our daughter for your wife. You can forget about that. And I told them, and so the young Brahmin was like, no, we made an agreement in front of the Gopal deity in Vrindavan, and if you don't believe me, I'll go to Vrindavan and bring him here. And the old Brahmin's son, Prabhupada describes him as an atheist, and he says, yeah, the old Brahmin's son thought that was a good solution, because he'll go to Vrindavan. How is he going to bring it? The deity of Krishna is not going to come back with him. It's not. That's like crazy talk. And so the old Brahmin's oldest son, he said, okay, that's a good deal. And so the young Brahmin thought it was a good solution too, because he had faith in the deity. And so he went to Vrindavan and he talked to Gopal and he said, you should come back with me to the village and bear witness to the promise agreement we made in front of you. And the first thing Gopal told them was that you go back and I'll come I forget what form, but I'll come back there and I'll give them evidence that they'll understand. I'm not coming myself, but I'll be there in a form that you won't really see, but I'll give evidence to attest to the facts. And the young Brahmin told Gopal, he said, no, you have to come with me. He said, otherwise I don't think they'll believe that it won't be good enough. And Gopal Diri said, he said, well, who ever heard of a deity walking all that way? And the young Brahmin said to him, he said, well, who ever heard of a deity talking to this devotee? So if you can talk, you can walk with me. And Gopal said, he said, okay, good enough, I'll come with you. But don't look at me. I'll walk behind you. You'll know I'm behind you by my ankle bells. But if you turn around, that's where I'll stay. And so they walked all the way, almost all the way to the village. And then the young Brahmin turned around and looked, and that's where Gopal stayed. But he had, it's a long way from, I don't know how far it is from Vrindavan to Bhubaneswar, hundreds of miles. That's a long way.
Take 2 months, 3 months walk, 4 months walk. Because from here, from Mayapur to Puri, Jabadaga Maharaj said he used to take devotees 1 month. That is double further. So it'll take 2.5 to 3 months walking one way.
Please. That's if you're walking kind of quick. I don't know. Anyway, it's a long way to walk. And forgot why I started on that. But anyway, we're becoming purified every day. Every second of every day is more and more purification is going on. Krishna is always working on us within our heart. We can become pure. Do we do another verse or stop? Have questions?
Like Alama got debated because of saying a prostitute mingling like Shudra mingling with Shudra.
Yeah.
And then he brought that. But the problem with us is that our mind behaves like a prostitute.
Oh yeah.
Created of the mind, because it's the mind that even if we are not with very lowly people, we are with devotees, and still let us is sensuality. That's most unfortunate. Because, like, in the case of Ananda, it was not but like heard from other from it's something like I think we become proud that we are devotees and then we become casual in our dealings and then we fall back to man. So how to safeguard ourselves because our mind becomes like our mind is not fixed to Guru Krishna. And even if the action as the opportunity comes, our mind takes us away from Guru Krishna. Otherwise, applying such a dangerous word in relationship with God, and that one should not associate even with one's sister, brother, or daughter in an isolated place. It doesn't matter because it's mentioned with one culture thing. Doesn't matter how elevated a person is. So, with one culture thing, there's some other like scientific word is different. Even the most advanced person can then it's falling very different. So, like how this is so unfortunate, Prabhu. Because doesn't matter how many years we have practiced Krishna consciousness, and like that in that situation, our mind can still cheat us. So, because like so unfortunate. You know, that mind can cheat us. So, like, it's such a bad thing. A person who has practiced for 50 years, and then he knows, like, it's like Prabhupada said, accidents are possible on the road. So, why does accidents take place on the road? Because we think we are an expert driver, and if we think we are an expert driver, we make a very credible accident. So, how to safeguard ourselves?
It's not that everyone mostly
But mention accident, it shatters so many.
yeah, I know.
It doesn't go.
What can you say? There are unfortunate things that happen that devotees do sometimes, but yeah,
How to protect ourselves and how, like, so that we don't fall into such situation, and how to protect the peace of our mind when we see some unfortunate situations.
there,
And one of the reasons is that devotees even cut themselves off from the social reality because lot of bad things we cannot do because of the social inhibition. You know, like because we're scared what people will say.
yeah,
But I think they are too advanced, completely neglect. They while performing any act, they don't consider what is the Guru and Krishna. They don't consider it is not the normal standard for a civilized society. So it feels so bad.
that's the point. Is the Kali Yuga? It's always bad in the material world, even in Satya Yuga. Satya Yuga, the people there are still fallen souls. It's not that everyone is a pure devotee, but it's much more elevated than now. The Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, and ocean, it means it's everywhere, danger at every step. But we should be confident of Krishna's mercy and the power of Krishna consciousness. It's not that everyone falls down or becomes victim of sinful desires. It happens, but it's not everyone. Many devotees go their whole life after becoming Krishna conscious and never have any fall down. It's I would say by far the predominant thing that devotees remain pure in their behavior. So we should. It's not inevitable. It happens. And it's very unfortunate that it happens, but it's not. It's not most devotees. And the only advice you can give that we can give anybody else or give ourselves, there's no other advice to give other than just keep surrendering to Krishna every day, every hour, every minute. Just keep surrendering to Krishna. Keep following your spiritual master's orders. Keep surrendering and remain faithful and dutiful in your Krishna conscious vows. And then you'll be safe. Feel insecure in Krishna consciousness, as if it happened. Look, it happened to him, and he was considered so advanced. So how is it possible that it won't happen to me? But that's not the proper way to think. The proper way to think is, but unfortunately, he had trouble in that way. But I don't have to have trouble in that way. I'm a free man in Krishna consciousness. I don't have to. It's like we don't follow what the or general mass of people do, so we don't have to. We choose voluntarily not to follow what the general mass of people do. So we choose of our own free will not to follow a bad example among the devotees either. We're not it's yeah, we're in Krishna's shelter, Krishna's protection, and all we have to do is just stay faithful, stay humble, stay dedicated servants of Guru and Krishna, and we'll be safe. What do you think?
Getting insecure, Krishna consciousness or not fixated.
And the soul is above the intelligence, and the soul ruled by the instructions of Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita and the spiritual master's instruction. The spirit soul's instructions to the mind are more powerful than if we exert our influence over the mind, is more powerful than the attraction of the mind to the objects of the senses.
Can you say that again? The last time. That was the mind.
Yeah, the intelligence is superior to the mind, and our intelligence is comprised of of the Shastras and the Bhagavad Gita and the instructions of Prabhupada, the spiritual master. That's what comprises our intelligence. And the intelligence is right next to the soul. So the soul, the intelligence, which is ruled by a Krishna conscious uh, uh, soul, mind, Krishna conscious determination, is more powerful than the attraction of the senses to the sense objects. The senses to the that attraction of the senses to the sense objects is very strong, but it's not nearly as strong as the mind, which is a mind which is controlled by the intelligence of the Shastras and the instructions of the spiritual master. Is much stronger. So as long as we keep our wits about us, and we know what is right and what is wrong. All the devotees, we always know that, and that's ingrained very deeply in our intelligence. And so if we use our spiritual intelligence to guide control the mind, then the senses can't overrule us, can't drag us down. They're subordinate. Senses are subordinate to the mind. The mind is subordinate to the intelligence. Intelligence is subordinate to the soul. The soul is subordinate to Guru and Krishna. So it, we don't have to be a victim. we have it within our hands, to our own control, not to be a victim of the influence of material energy. And devotee, yes, obviously there are fall downs among devotees, good devotees, and problems in their spiritual life sometimes. But those problems also will be rectified by Krishna and the sincere desire of the devotee. And that will also be rectified in due course. We're not doomed to anything. We may suffer some results of our misbehavior. We will suffer, but we're not doomed in the same way that a ordinary conditioned soul is doomed. Who? Oh, okay, okay.
Even the material state or the opposite gender.
Yeah.
Mind and that's accordingly to but in the last intelligence get covered up and put the right and wrong to like forget it.
No, but that's not inevitable. It can happen, but we're, as a spirit soul, we're in charge of the mind and intelligence. We have the ability to say no. It used to be a saying in ISKCON, when the senses say go, the Goswami says no. So we all have that ability. We're all supposed to be Goswamis. All the devotees are supposed to control our senses. And yeah, it's not inevitable. Lust will come, but uh, but we don't have to be victim to lust. We can look away. We can say, "No, I got to chant my rounds." Like Haridas Thakur, he wasn't. I mean, he's Haridas Thakur, but Prabhupada uses him as an example to show how a sincere devotee doesn't have to be a victim of Maya Devi. And, we're not Haridas Thakur, but we have the same ability to say no to lust. We're not helpless victims anymore. We're under Krishna's guidance, Krishna's control, and we have the ability to say no. When the materialist is attracted to the objects of the senses, he can't say no. He may say no because if he says yes, he might, you know, do something really crazy and get thrown in jail or get killed. But even then, sometimes they don't say no, even though they know that's going to happen too. All the criminals who are in prison, they know that by committing crime, they can be thrown in prison, but they still do it. And but anyway, but mostly the conditioned soul in the material world, practically speaking, can't say no to his senses when the senses are overcome by lust. And the person is overcome by lust, anger, and greed, envy. He has no choice. He's helpless in the face of them. But as devotees, we're not helpless, because we're attached to Krishna, who is much stronger than Maya. Maya is a servant of Krishna, and Maya has there's no power of Maya that can force us to deviate from our Krishna consciousness. Yeah.
In such embarrassing situation, even after years of consciousness.
Yeah.
If so, then my person speaks such a bad name, that person is so elevated, falls so badly.
Yeah.
Why is someone in such a bad situation? Because then, like, the situation becomes worse than what it is externally. So why is it bad by Krishna if they become proud?
I don't know. I don't know. We can look around ourselves and see that it happens, but I don't know. What? Yeah. Yeah.
But person who has practiced years, like, yeah, like, how can they could have any other wrong thing that might have happened? Okay, I can go like that.
Yeah. But, well, pride is.
And you come all the way out here.
Yeah.
And then again, all that started.
Well, the person who falls down, he's not going to fall all the way down and become a non-devotee again. He's still a devotee, and he's still sincere in his Krishna consciousness. And Krishna, there's that purport in the 8th canto in Gajendra and the crocodile, where Prabhupada is referring to one of his sannyas disciples who left his sannyas and got married, and he said there that okay, if you can't maintain such a strict standard of renunciation, you get he said it's like Gajendra. Gajendra couldn't fight well because he was in the water. If he had been on land, he could have easily defeated the crocodile. I know but don't. But yeah, I know it's disturbing. It's uh, but yeah, but we're conditioned souls. We're embarrassed to begin with. We're in the material world. We should be embarrassed to be here. It's like everyone should be like really like, oh, you see me, I'm in the material world. Yeah, you're here too, but it's embarrassing, isn't it? It's like if all of a sudden we're all out in public and all of a sudden we don't have any clothes on. It's like, boy, this is really embarrassing. It's like, just to be in the material world is embarrassing. And then but anyways, uh, yeah, I mean it's bad, but but it happens. It happens. It's and it doesn't mean that the person is not a devotee anymore. He's still very dear to Krishna. He's come so far and done so much service for Prabhupada and for Krishna, and Krishna can never forget that. Prabhupada said that in a previous purport. He said Krishna could never forget the service that Ajamil did in his youth when he was a very dutiful young Brahmin serving the deity. And he was going out to collect firewood for the deity when he got.
And he was something back. It actually went out to serve Krishna.
Yeah.
Saying, "Well, Krishna consciousness."
Yeah.
The whole would not have started. They would not have worked. So we are taking all this only for practicing Krishna.
Yeah. And Prabhupada said many times that somebody asked him about the devotees who go out on book distribution and are associating with the karmis every day. He said, what about that? Don't they become infected by their association? And Prabhupada said, no, they can't be infected like that. And he gave the example of a doctor who knows how to take uh, precautions against getting infected in the hospital. Of course, that happens too. Materially, like during COVID, there were many doctors and nurses who got sick and died because of COVID. So, but it's an example. It's not a perfect example, but his Prabhupada gave that as an example why the devotees who go out on Sankirtan, they get special protection from Krishna not to be affected or infected by the bad association of the people. It, well, he wasn't distributing books. What can I say?
But John he was mentioning long back and now it's coming again in my mind. Why Krishna is different?
Say it again. Yeah.
That's that like other give up the space by prostitution.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you go to time for adornment.
Yeah. 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 I mean, you can never judge. I mean, each individual case is very specific, and Krishna deals with each individual. You can't say to Krishna. Yeah. 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 Yeah, there's different cases, and Krishna interacts with his devotees in very specific, very consciously chosen ways. Krishna knows exactly what he wants to do. He's not like, oh, I didn't use that way yet. Okay, I'll use it on him. Krishna knows exactly how he wants to deal very specifically with each and every living entity, and there's infinite living entities, and so there Krishna presents, gives different punishments or different atonements in different cases, and you can't, yeah, it's just that's what Krishna decided to do in that case, and he decided to do something else in that case. That's as far as it. That's as far as we can go with it. We can't I mean, if you get a chance when you're back in Goloka Vrindavan, you could ask Krishna. if you want to, maybe he'll tell you, yeah, well, because this person, he really needed this, and this person, it wasn't so much, so I treated him like, maybe, I don't know, maybe he'll tell you very specifically why, but I don't think anybody else can. Yeah.
I wanted to ask related this context only.
Yeah.
One of the purpose Prabhupada mentioned like hunter does not let wild animals to be free. They engage them. So such that we have to engage our mind. So through like if we are going out associating with other people, sometimes like our senses can get very strong that we cannot overcome them. So how can we create boundaries?
Well,
That might not feel like staying with the mind of someone, but if you stay still you get it.
yeah.
The mind, the heart,
Uh, for the main thing is like you go to school every day, so and there's all materialistic people at school, and so I mean the main thing is to limit your association with non-devotees. You can't avoid it if you're in college. You know, you're at university, you can't avoid it, but you can limit it and try to not spend more time at the university than is necessary. Try to come back to the temple unless it's necessary to be at the university. That's the main thing, is how we choose to spend our time and energy. And but we don't have to be victims of our mind. Like sometimes, like now, I'll give you an example. My now, when I was young, like you guys, I could run and do all kinds of stuff and play sports, and I could, if I fell down, I wouldn't get hurt. I'd just jump up and go again. And, I could do all kinds of stuff. And now I can't really anymore. And I can still do something, but there's a lot of things I can't do anymore. And, yeah, and the thing is, I get consideration from a lot of people. They see me and like kind of struggling a little and say, "Oh well, yeah, he's old and he can't do it anymore." So yeah, I'm old. Because if you get a wheelchair and then they wheel you around to do everything for you, but you don't want to fall. You don't want to get into that too much. You don't want to become. You don't want to like just be artificially old and incapable and say, "Oh, I can't do that. I can't do that." I mean, it may be true. Maybe you can't do it, but you can try. You don't have to be. Anyway, I'm not sure why I talked about that, but the main thing is that the mind will. The mind is pretty tricky. The mind will say, oh, "Why don't you use that? That's a good. You can use that as a good excuse why you don't have to do this or you can't do that." Or the mind is tricky. Like I've learned over the course of this life that the mind, especially since coming to Krishna consciousness, that the mind is very, very tricky, and the mind is the mind, the materially conditioned mind and intelligence are expert at presenting uh, lying the conditioned souls are very good at lying, and we're making up a good story. Like that's and you can make it sound really reasonable. Like, well, yeah, I get it. You're right. But it's a story. It's basically it's a lie. And but the materially conditioned mind is expert at making up good stories, good lies. So as devotees, we're always examining the activities of our mind. The mind, so we're examining the activities of our mind, and we can see when, like I can see when I'm using a little bit of age and a little bit of disability as an excuse to get more help or more consideration. I can see that's what I'm doing in my mind. You can see the activities of your mind. That's the difference between the human being and the animal, is that the human being can stand back from his mind and examine what his mind is doing as if from a separate point of view. So, and especially as devotees, we have with with the benefit of the Shastras, the intelligence of Krishna, Guru and Krishna behind us, we can have great understanding of and really examine our thoughts, our words, our deeds, in the light of the Shastras. Devotees are intelligent, and devotees are always self-examining, self-analyzing, and so we have the power to examine what the mind is doing and say no to the mind, no to the senses.
Our mind can examine, not to the senses, but mind justifies everything. Mind justifies
It's really good at justifying.
She took care of the deer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take care of the deer.
Yeah. We're very good at justifying anything we want. We're good at justifying. Well, I shouldn't have this, but I really need it. I, and Krishna will understand, and it'll be okay. And anyway, it's what I want. So it's tricky.
Yeah. So, you know, that without the guidance of superior and sincere person with the business, and you might
Yeah.
be
Yeah, that's why we live together with advanced devotees, and why we take instruction humbly, and why we're submissive to Guru and Prabhupada and Krishna in disciplic succession, because we know we're not strong on our own, we're not intelligent enough on our own. So that's why there are temples. That's why we live together. And if somebody doesn't live in the temple, that's why they should always come to the temple and associate with the great souls, the devotees in the temple. But yeah, we, we'll always be okay. My experience is we'll always be safe in Krishna's protection.
something different that
Yeah, right.
My next
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah. We are strongly willing to Krishna. I see the sincerity and the determined. Well, we need to be stronger, and we're becoming stronger by purification, by chanting Hare Krishna. We're becoming stronger, but there can still be trouble, but but there's no trouble that Krishna can't overcome. It's like there's no damage that can be done that Krishna can't overcome uh, with his sincere devotee. Krishna knows the devotee had trouble, he did something bad, but I can fix it. Krishna can fix anything.
But how can we protect it? But other people adapt this went off the track by this one scene. And one scene, they went to the palace of Ram and all people are improperly dressed.
Yeah.
So how to remain focused on the service? And then the Adam would get that going to this calendar. So like how a slight can bring the greatest disaster.
I don't know. Oh, you're going. I tell you that. All the service you're doing, all the care you're taking of all the devotees, and you're definitely going back to God. Okay, let's stop class here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, he can tell you. He knows everything. I don't know everything. That's perfect.
And the students are affected by other struggles. That will be by Professor Maratha member understanding.
Ah, everything.
Because of me. But my mind is strange. There's still there was one more question, but I just like you should know.
Yeah,